Well, first of all, the only two free agents there that really matter to me are Chris Paul and Kyle Lowry, because I think those two could potentially be on the move, although I'm inclined to believe that CP3 will remain in L.A. Blake Griffin could depart from L.A. Who knows? He can exercise his player option as well, although he may opt in. Bottom line is the team that I'm about to say Blake Griffin has no business on, and that is the New Orleans Pelicans. I apologize. Pelicans.
It's okay.
All right.
We know what you mean.
Let me be very clear. If you're CP3, who wanted to leave New Orleans years ago to go to a major market like LA, if you're Kyle Lowry, even though I don't think that there's a big discrepancy between Kyle Lowry and Drew Holiday, I got to tell you, if I'm an elite point guard and I've got Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins to work with, if I'm a point guard and a floor general and a leader like Chris Paul can be, that is something that I am strongly entertaining. Because even though I like Holiday, you know, he's a solid player that can make a contribution, but he's not a difference maker. You need a difference maker at that position. And you need somebody with the cachet and the intestinal fortitude, not just to be great, but to lead young, promising, great players. I think Anthony Davis, in a couple of years, will be the best player in the world, okay? And DeMarcus Cousins, the best big man in the world. And if I'm a point guard, I would love to work with those two. I think that the New Orleans Pelicans should be a prime target for a free agent big-time guard. That's what I believe.
Sure, but there's a lot of risk associated. You know, will the team get the proper 3-and-D guys around a point guard who can get to the paint and make good decisions with the ball and also defer to the two bigs? And the way that chemistry may or may not work out, and I'm optimistic that it will eventually work out, there are lots of question marks there. Generally, I would say, especially for a point guard, the destination would be the San Antonio Spurs. That is the New England Patriots of the NBA. They're the best organization with the best coach. They are consistently excellent, not just 50 wins a season, but in recent seasons, it's like you expect them to win 60 games. And what they need now, if Tony Parker is compromised, as much as they like Patty Mills, and that, you know, you need a guy who can really get dribble penetration. So, you know, maybe Kyle Lowry fits there. And of course, when you talk about free agents and where they should go, it depends on need. I think the best fit, Stephen A., and a guy who could be on the move, is Gordon Hayward to the Celtics. And it is like poison in my mouth. Puh, the Celtics, I hate them. But
you love Boston.
Listen, the fact of the matter is, Boston is a heritage team. And that town will support out of its mind if the Celtics are a legitimate championship contender. They're already behind this Celtics team, and we all know they're not going to challenge for a championship yet. And Danny Ainge has been so smart about the way he's done this. He has all his assets and draft picks and everything. And if they can land Gordon Hayward on that team, Stephen A., it was too soon this year. Who knows what it's going to be like next year? If they get that guy on the Boston Celtics, it is such a good fit for such a good franchise in such a great basketball town with such a great tradition. You win there, you are dining out forever. I think that is the best fit among the free agents and the franchises in terms of need. You know, also, if you go to the Spurs, you're expected to win everything. You know, the Spurs are always excellent. In a certain kind of way, the kind of credit you're due is diminished because you went to the Spurs. What are you supposed to do? But you go and win a chip in Boston, and with Gordon Hayward, they'd be real live to do it.
Well, listen, me personally, listen, they should definitely go after Gordon Hayward, but you got to make up your mind because you talk about how great LeBron is, and you keep talking about he's so great that it doesn't matter who anybody else gets because it's a foregone conclusion.
Right.
What I'm saying to you is that with Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, could you imagine if a CP3 was their point guard? I mean, could you imagine what that would do in the Western Conference? I mean, Boston is knocking on the door right now, and Gordon Hayward would help them to continue to knock. But the New Orleans Pelicans, they're not even in the stratosphere. They're not even in the picture. But that would all change if you gave them a big-time guard with those two dudes.
You know, CP3 is one of
leadership is what I'm talking about.
He's like a perfect point guard. You mentioned Larry Brown earlier in the show. Everything he's ever preached about the point guard position, it's like CP3 is the embodiment of that. And the numbers he puts up are unbelievable. And he's efficient. And he has the kind of aura of a winner. However, the results have not matched everything else I just said in the playoffs, in spite of being on some very good teams. And
well,
so
some people
wonder,
will look at Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan and compare that to Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins.
After a certain amount of time with really good teammates, the thing I see on the Clippers, Stephen A., is they're not always all playing for each other, pulling in the same direction. It seems to me that they don't get along the way some other teams get along. And that has to have something to do with their leader and best player, Chris Paul. So I wonder if a place like New Orleans that doesn't quite have the same, put it this way, if he were to go to the Spurs with Greg Popovich there, I don't think that's an issue. I think that the best of Chris Paul and his leadership abilities will be brought out on the Spurs. I wonder if some of the stuff that sometimes causes resentment maybe in teammates comes out more in a place like New Orleans.